Good afternoon and welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. I'm Ethan Huang.
And I'm Claire Fogarty. We are coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center. It's Thursday, September 22nd, 2022.
On today's show, a new dating app by USC students for USC students, blackouts across Puerto Rico in wake of Hurricane Fiona, and a conversation about a team of youth journalists in East LA.
All that and more from where we are. But first, these news headlines from Luqian Wang.
From Annenberg Media, I'm Luqian Wang. President Biden's $1 trillion student loan forgiveness plan is underway. About 37 million Americans are eligible, and the state that has the most recipients is California. Some 3.5 million people here are eligible for loan forgiveness. Following California is Texas, with 3.3 million. Then Florida, where nearly 2.5 million student loan recipients are eligible to have at least some of their debt forgiven. Time to relax without wearing a mask. Starting this Friday, Los Angeles County will lift the mask requirement on public transportation and in transportation hubs, such as airports. This decision will impact around 10 million LA residents, as well as people traveling through LA County. But experts warn that people at risk, such as the elderly and the unvaccinated, should still mask up in high-risk areas. Boeing will pay $200 million and their former CEO will pay $1 million to settle charges that the company misled investors after two deadly crashes of Boeing 737 MAX jetliners. The crashes, one in October 2018 and the other in March 2019, killed 346 people. Everyone aboard the two flights and led to a worldwide grounding of the jetliners. That grounding has since been lifted and 737 MAXs are flying again. The special master appointed to review documents that federal agents seized at Donald Trump's Florida estate, Mar-a-Lago, has given Trump until next Friday to back up his allegation that the FBI planted evidence in the search on August the 8th. The court-appointed special master has also ordered the government to turn over to Trump's lawyers copies of all non-classified items seized in the case. They have until Monday to do so. He then ordered Trump's legal team to submit a clarification or affidavit of any items taken from Mar-a-Lago that the, quote, plaintiff asserts were not seized from the premises, unquoted. In other words, items the Trump team believes were planted there by someone else. Those are some of the top stories in the news.
There's a new way to meet people at USC, especially to deal with those misconnections. Matt Dutrasak has more.
Ever pass somebody on campus and wish you'd said hello? Now you get a second chance. There's a new dating app. It's made just for USC students, and it's called Mist. Based off the Instagram page USC Mist Connections, this new app allows students to create anonymous posts about people they see on campus. From there, the subject of that post can read what the person who posted said about them, and then decide whether or not they would like to respond. Beyond just the dating aspect, the creators of this app, Adam Novak and Kevin Sun, hope that it can become a platform where people can receive compliments and spread love throughout the USC campus. But what do the students think of this app? Tina Huang said that she never used a dating app, but would be eager to try out an app based off of USC Misconnections.
I feel like the idea that it's anonymous, like the whole Misconnection platform, it's pretty fun and people are more likely to use it because they don't have to show their name or anything.
Sitting on a bench by Tommy Trojan, Ko Kwin was also intrigued by this new app.
I think USC Misconnection is kind of like a funny Instagram page. It's like kind of entertaining, and it's like there's a sense of anonymity to it. So I think it would be a nice platform for a dating app.
Another student who says she's never used a dating app is Liana Artunyan. She has a personal connection to the USC Misconnections as she was the subject of one of the posts on the account.
I was on it, I think. It was really weird. I didn't even see it. One of my friends sent it to me, but I guess the reason we figured out it was me is because my last name's like A-R-T, and then they said like, Liana, you're a piece of art, but with a capital A.
Artunyan said that she may try Myst.
They're too scared to like actually approach them, so like I guess that could work. Yeah.
Some students were less eager to use the app because they're skeptical they can find a match. Here's sophomore Ella Hodgetts.
I have yet to make an appearance on the USC Misconnections Instagram page, as far as I know. So I don't really think the dating app would, cater to my strengths.
Myst seems to have the interest of the student population for the most part, with some being skeptical of the chances of finding a match. That one of the main purposes of the app is to bring people together, the founders hope it is also used among students to compliment someone, make someone's day. For Annenberg Media, I'm Matt Dutrasak.
Millions of Puerto Ricans are still suffering from blackouts and other damage from Hurricane Fiona, more than a week after the storm hit the island. Ben Papp reports.
8 days after Fiona, it's still not known how badly the hurricane has damaged the island. More than 3 million Puerto Ricans remain without power or internet. This called attention to the aging infrastructure of the U.S. territory. Carlos de Otanan is a U.S. freshman from Puerto Rico. He's majoring in NGO and social change.
Personally, I believe, specifically in Puerto Rico, that the failures of the electric infrastructure are very much rooted in U.S. colonialism over the island. There was an act established in 2016 by Obama. It was known as the Puerto Rican Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act. And essentially, its overall goal was to support the island politically and financially, but unfortunately, it hasn't really done so, I guess.
De Otanan wonders how much Puerto Rico matters to the U.S. He says while his people were suffering, Americans were paying attention to Queen Elizabeth's funeral.
Honestly, it's sad. I recently actually posted something on my Instagram story. It was a tweet talking about the situation going on in Pakistan and Puerto Rico related to the flooding, and it emphasized how the Queen's death was given the most coverage, or it was kind of like overshadowing, all these other very important issues that are going on. And as a Puerto Rican, I feel like a lot of our issues are just often, they just remained unacknowledged. And I speak from, having access to media and seeing how much is covered, and also from personal experience.
Today, Hurricane Fiona is moving towards Bermuda, after leaving still-to-be-discovered destruction in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Fiona is still a Category 4 storm and is expected to hit the edge of Bermuda tonight or tomorrow morning. For Annenberg Media, I'm Ben Papp.
The Federal Reserve made its third consecutive 75 basis point hike in interest rates on Wednesday. But how exactly does this policy affect the average American consumer? Here's Cassidy Roan with the story.
Although we have seen our gas prices gradually return to normal over the past few months, inflation in the United States still increased in August according to the Bureau of Statistics. In order to counter these rising prices, the Federal Reserve made its toughest policy decision since the 1980s to fight inflation. USC Economics PhD candidate Dario Ladauti breaks down the relationship between inflation rates and interest rates in this policy decision.
You have to think at the interest rates as the cost of money. So the Federal Reserve cannot affect the economy directly. It has to go through the financial system. So the Fed tries to affect the real economy through the financial system. Now, what's happening at the moment is that the Fed is very much scared of the inflation dynamics. In order to lower these inflation rates, they are trying to make money more costly so that banks issue a lower amount of loans. And by doing so, the economy cools down.
According to Ladouti, the Fed has taken a demand-centered approach in making this decision, as its main focus remains to decrease consumer spending to get inflation back down to their mandated average of 2%.
Now the Fed is thinking there is too much employment. People are working too much. There are not enough people to fill the gaps of the jobs that get created from firms. So they're actually trying to almost generate more layoffs in order for people to have less spending and come down and have the prices coming down.
As announced by the chair of the Fed, Jerome Powell, the Federal Open Market Committee intends on continuing a further trend in increasing interest rates.
Today, the FOMC raised its policy interest rate by 0.75 percentage point, and we anticipate that ongoing increases will be appropriate. We are moving our policy stance purposefully to a level that will be sufficiently restrictive to return inflation to 2%.
Dario Ladouti expresses concerns about what this trend will mean for American consumers, especially for those who are low income.
The Fed didn't simply raise the rates yesterday. They went further and they said they're committed to keep doing this. That's crucially important. Sometimes the Fed does the so-called, quote, Fed speak, end quote. So what happens is that if you have a higher cost of input, you have to reassess your risks. What does it mean in plain terms? You have to avoid giving credit to the people that are more risky to you. Who are the people that are more risky to you? The poorest. So potentially there will be the poorer parts of the population that will have no access to credit, or they will have a cost of credit which is exorbitant. In the medium run, it's very likely that there will be a recession.
Should the Fed keep its word that consecutive bumps in inflation should be expected, the cost will be paid by consumers. For Annenberg Media, I'm Cassidy Roan.
A journalism team in East LA works to create news by and for the community and gives a platform for aspiring teen journalists. Boyle Heights Beat is a bilingual community news project with a completely youth-led team working to serve the immigrant community in East LA. Today, we are here with Chris Kelly, adjunct professor with USC Annenberg and executive director at Boyle Heights Beat. Hi, Professor Kelly. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a bit more about what student journalists do at Boyle Heights Beat.
So we recruit the students from the local high schools. A lot of times they come from, they haven't had a lot of journalism experience. The recommendations come from maybe the AP English teachers, principals, or just now we've been around in the community for about 12 years. So I even have a lot of siblings going through the program. And we basically teach them how to report on their community. It's this kind of inside look at what the community looks like. A lot of them have grown up, the only images they ever see of their community are, in major media, are when there's gang shootings or some like rates of crime. Boyle Heights also has a lot of traffic accidents, so things like that. So really they come in with this idea of like what is important to them, and we really like let them lead the stories that they write. They spend a long time on their first stories. I mean, they spend about a semester on their first stories, but they get that training, the same kind of training that we give here at Annenberg Media. Really how to be a journalist, how to report. But the difference is that it's a community that they've grown up in or that they go to school in.
And with grassroots journalism organizations like the Boyle Heights Beat, what are like the obstacles that are unique to that field?
I'm sorry.
So like what different obstacles does the Boyle Heights Beat face that like a legacy media company wouldn't?
Well, money in general. I mean, we're nonprofit media. I don't know that we have, viewers. We don't have the same kind of viewership. We don't have the same it's a small community. It's very hyper local, so our news is very targeted to that community, which is both a positive and a negative. As far as like we don't always get our stuff promoted countywide, because it's a lot of times it's very local to our community. At the same time, because we're a youth program, I think it offers different opportunities, and we're like a youth development and leadership program as well as a journalism training program. So in that respect, I think we might have a step up from legacy. Like we have like a lot of foundations that are looking to give us funding to kind of like promote the learning in that environment.
And kind of speaking about what makes this publication kind of stand out as opposed to other companies, could you tell us about a story that was unique to Boyle Heights Beat that maybe otherwise would not have been reported on?
Well, I mean, the teens are bringing us stories, and sometimes like teenagers, I mean, as with young journalists, like you might think things in your everyday life are not a story, but then, just in kind of our news meetings and when we're talking about what's going on, I'll be like, wait, that's a story. Like, let's talk about that. Let's go deeper on that. So it's really that, it's just, we're have a different base that we're coming from. When something that just comes to mind off the top of my head, when the LA teacher strike happened, there was like LAUSD was like, oh no, it's business as usual. This is what we're doing. We're still having classrooms. We're still doing this. And I had my students inside the class, like taking videos and posting them on social media. Like, no, this is what we're doing. We're in the gym. Nobody's doing anything. So it's, that's a perspective you couldn't get. And then we had like, actually local, like the ABC, affiliate was like outside, like reporting, like on, because they saw what was really happening, like that we were doing. We had like COVID also. I mean, it's a low-income immigrant community. COVID hit that community really hard, and it was really hard with my program because we weren't doing anything in person. But a lot of my students' parents were first responders or worked, so they were janitors. They were working in fast food. So we had a lot of first-person real interviews that were pretty moving, and just about the fear that they had of going to work and then bringing COVID into their families. So
yeah, and so that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor Kelly. Where can people find Boyle Heights Beat if they want to, listeners want to check in?
We're at www.boyleheightsbeat.com, and then we also have a podcast that's Radio Pulso on SoundCloud. So we do that about once a month. So
awesome.
Check that out as well.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
And that's all the time we have for on today's From Where We Are. Spencer Klein, Jeffrey Lee, Claire Fogarty, Deja Lynn Satcher, and Lutian Wang produced today's show.
Jeffrey Lee also runs our soundboard. Derek Renfro composed our theme music.
Follow us on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News, and subscribe to From Where We Are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm Ethan Huang.
And I'm Claire Fogarty. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for From Where We Are.
So today's the first day of autumn. What are you looking forward to?
I think I'm supposed to say I'm excited for the leaves to change, but I don't think that really happens in LA.